Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and recently the trainer trials were added to Pokemon TCG Live, and we got the first one called the Singleton Showdown, which was, I think, pretty cool, but the next one is the Twin Battle format. This is actually pretty similar to the Singleton Showdown. There's really one rule change. Singleton Showdown, you can only have one copy of each card except for Basic Energy. Twin Battles, you can have, or in fact, you have to have exactly two of each card, excluding Basic Energy, right? So you can play as many of that as you want, except it needs to be an even number of Basic Energy. And you can't play A-Spec cards either. This doesn't, it changes things a little bit, the A-Spec thing. I think Twin Battle is the most similar to Standard of all the formats. So if you want to just kind of hop into it, I think it might be the easiest to do so. You can probably tweak your decks just a little bit and get there, and then they'll have a more similar play, which could be good or it could be bad depending on what you're looking for. But do keep that in mind. Although obviously I've not played it yet. I'm recording this well before the format's out, like quite a few days before, and I think I'll be posting it before it's out as well. But anyways, do keep that in mind and these things. But the rules are simple. It's just Standard outside of that same card pool again, except the aspects are literally unplayable. You cannot play those. But I'll be looking at what I consider 5 top decks. I won't be talking about Hop Zacian or Enzorg, and I will not be talking about like Gardevoir. I'm only obviously talking about 5 decks here, but if you have questions about other decks that you have for me and like how those would adapt to Twin Battles, feel free to ask them. I will say I'll be talking about Dragapult. You could mix Dragapult in with Charizard EX if you wanted. I think that would be fine, or not. I personally would say no. I guess I don't know though. I think that could be fine. And so I'll also say I talked about Singleton Showdown quite a bit. This Twin Battle is closer to Standard, I think, than Singleton Showdown, but it's somewhere in the middle, definitely. But anyways, the first deck we have here is, I don't know why I have Latias EX. The first one I'm going to be talking about is Archaludon EX, and as we talk about these decks, I'll be going over important cards as well, in general in the format. Archaludon EX with the poison like archetype or whatever specifically, I think translates pretty well here. The biggest thing that you'll have to cut down on, obviously looking at this, is the Archaludon EX itself, which means you only, or I don't know if it's the biggest thing, but it's a pretty major thing, dropping to 2 attackers. Like a 2/2 line of that is a little sketchy, but that's not exactly that's not your only source of damage at all. You have the poison stuff, which is nice. This list plays Dialga EX. I haven't actually played with that. I don't play it in what I've played. So we'll talk about some different Pokemon here, but you have Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX and Badoo as like attackers, Pecharunt as well, but you'll definitely play 2/2 2 Pecharunt, 2 Brute Bonnet, and then obviously 2 Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, and then these other Pokemon, you could bump up to 2 copies or drop down to 0. Personally, I'd probably keep Latias EX and Fezandipiti EX definitely. They're just really core to the deck kind of working, and I'd probably keep Squawkabilly EX as well. And you're not going to be playing all those. You can't get any value out of playing 2 Squawkabilly EX or Fezandipiti EX unless you're kind of like, you keep them as backup, but it's not the biggest deal to sacrifice a couple of deck slots for that. They're just super strong. And kind of same idea with Latias EX there as well, though I could see removing that. But then the Brute Bonnet can get stuck, and it's hard to get Pecho in the active and things like that. But anyways, I figured I'd mention that. Then I'd probably get Dialga EX. I'd probably naturally I don't want to include Badoo because I don't think it's super. I mean, I'm not a big Badoo fan. I think the card's fine, but I'm someone who tends to leave it out more than other people. But anyways, Badoo could be nice. You want some attacker. And I'd also probably cut the Monkey Dory. I don't think Monkey Dory is super good. And having 2 of it doesn't seem great. But then you have the Badoo. I think Badoo's okay, and 2 copies of that does not seem bad, giving you a bit more versatility in different matchups and things like that. And that'd be the attacker that I'd have. And I'd probably also have Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX, but I'm not sure if I'd have both that and Badoo. But anyways, just wanted to give some ideas there. But it is your list, just kind of mess around and try stuff out. And I definitely cut Relicanth as well. I think Relicanth is niche. It's okay, but it's not amazing, especially to be taking up 2 deck slots. Then in terms of trainers, obviously you'd have 2 Boss, 2 Iono, you'd have 2 Research, 2 Carmine. I could see playing 2 Arven, because you can get your tool easier. You're not playing Secret Box, and you're only playing 2 Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. So I think Arven could be decent, but I think the items are just okay. Looking at the item counts, and I'm not going to go over exact counts of all the cards for all the decks, but I'm going to go more in detail on this one because I think it might be the best. I think it's really good in Standard, and I think it translates, as I said, really well here. two Night Stretcher should be replaced by two Super Rod. I'm assuming that's the best replacement there. Then you have Nest Ball and Ultra Ball. This is a big issue for a lot of decks. It's also an issue for like Research and Iono and different supporters, but it's the biggest issue for Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, and maybe Buddy Buddy Poffin. You need to replace those with different item cards. If you're not playing two Ultra Ball and two Nest Ball already in whatever deck, I definitely recommend putting that in. But then on top of that, you could play stuff like Great Ball or Dusk Ball. Those cards are okay. They're not amazing, but they get the job done enough of the time, so they're fine there. You could put in Love Ball. Don't put in Love Ball. Love Ball's funny. I figured I'd mention that. I think it was okay for Singleton. I guess you can still play Singleton, but yeah. Oh, and you cannot play obviously. I said you can still play Singleton. That'll be Twin Battles is replacing that. I think pretty much everyone's aware of that, but if you weren't, that's how it works. A second Pal Pad could be nice here. A second Pal Pad in different decks is kind of good because you have limited access to supporter counts. I mean, it's limited at 2, so Pal Pad means that you can theoretically play it 6 times, and gives you a bunch more wiggle room, which is kind of cool. In the Turo scenario, I'd probably include a second copy of if it's that important. I was talking with Uncommon Fossil about this one on the podcast. The general idea that we had was if a card is actually that important that you need it as a 1 of, then having it as a 2 of isn't that bad. So I'd probably include a second copy in case you get like trapped or something like that. Not really mostly being trapped, but the healing's okay. And then obviously drop a Perilous Jungle, and that's about it. I don't know exactly where that leaves the list count at, but again, not too many massive changes outside of, I guess the biggest ones are hitting them, the Archaludon is kind of awkward, especially without having 4 Night Stretchers, and then your Pokemon count is going to look a little wonky, and that'll be true for every list. The next one we have here, though, is Tera Box. Tera Box is really good in Standard. It's a deck that I enjoy, and it's strong. I'll also mention the Trapghost EX deck itself here as well, focused on that, because I think you want to be doing that a little more. I'd probably cut Pikachu EX, to be honest. I don't think that card's super good in Standard right now anyways, in this deck, or in other things. I don't know what else you'd be playing it in, but it's good if you get it powered up, but it's kind of awkward. I think it's going to be more awkward here. You're cutting down to 2 Crispin, 2 Energy Switch, and no Sparkling Crystal, which is kind of annoying for you. And then removing Pikachu EX would also allow you to get a better energy count, removing a Metal Energy, probably removing the Lightning Energy as well, though you could keep it for Trapghost EX. And then I'd probably also cut... I'm not sure what I cut in terms of Pokemon. I'd probably cut the Ditto. The one big issue as well is that you're playing a 2/2 Noctowl now. You could play the Pelipper. I played that in Singleton, and that was like okay, though it wasn't amazing. It searches for supporter from your deck or discard on play, which is pretty fun, though it's not amazing. You could play... Yeah, I don't know. You might just cut down the Noctowls and kind of leave it there and just see how things go, but that's a little risky. Honestly, this deck doesn't translate amazingly to Twin Battles. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And then you will be playing, you'll just have to cut down some attackers, play 2 copies of others, and probably reduce your energy counts or your energy diversity, which is better. That increases your consistency, but obviously reduces your options. And then once your deck's more focused on certain Pokemon, then you actually need less Noctowls, because Noctowl's there to increase consistency with weird things happening. So, that should be fine. I don't think it's like there's not exactly a clear right way to play. Like you could cut and include whatever you choose to, but do kind of try to keep the energies. The idea would be to make it more streamlined. I'd actually recommend playing at least 2 of every energy for the most part, which is not something the deck normally does. You don't have to do that, but that's generally a good idea, especially with the less search for these cards. You probably play some more Ionos and moving on to the trainers, 2 Ionos, and then the ball search. I'd probably play 2 Buddy Buddy Poffin, and then just more supporters. Supporters are fine; they'll increase your consistency there. And I'd play 2 Fezandipiti EX. I would do that. 2 of most of your all of your attackers there. I could see removing Bu EX, though I could see keeping it as well. And then I kind of feel like I'd remove Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX. It's all right, but as a 2, it feels kind of awkward. And I feel like Latias EX is nice as well. And if you have Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX, you also need Latias EX, and that's 4 spots. because you're playing two Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX, you're more likely to start it. But anyways, nothing too crazy to say about the deck. Obviously, need to like cut some stuff down, mess around with how it feels. But I think Trapghost EX as a focus as an attacker is good as well. Although Trapghost EX itself can't be the entire deck really, because you only play 2 Area 0 Underdepths, which is awkward. And losing Sparkling Crystal is also a pretty big deal. I don't think this deck's amazing in the format, the Twin Battles format, but I think it's okay. The next deck we have here is Dragapult EX, and the other deck is the Dragapult Gholdengo list, which I'll mention. This one is Dragapult with Dusknoir. I feel like Pidgeot EX could be a really good inclusion in the deck as well. I'd definitely include TM Evolution. You have some consistency issues, so I'd do that. And then EXP Share I actually really like, especially without Sparkling Crystal. Not too much to say about this deck again. I probably wouldn't cut, or I would cut Iron Bundle. I'm not a big fan of that. I wouldn't hate seeing some boss. There's not too much to say about this deck, though. A lot of it's 2-ofs. Cutting down to a 2/2/2 Dragapult, though, is pretty awkward, I will say. So that's where I mentioned you could play Charizard EX, or you could play it with Gholdengo. Oh, also I'll mention this one plays 4 Arven and 4 Iono. You could change that for like researches. Research is definitely a bit more clunky in the deck, mostly because you're discarding stuff that you kind of want, especially because you're only playing 2 copies of it, but I don't think it's the end of the world, and it just is a good supporter. You could play Brock Scouting. It wouldn't do that, but if you want to, you could. I honestly don't think Jack's amazing either. And then, yeah, just play like, good supporters. Like researches. The one I do, you could play Boss, whatever. They're not, Boss isn't a replacement, but that's a card that you could certainly play, and is still good, but not, again, too much to say about this deck. It's pretty similar, but then adding in the Gholdengo stuff, Gholdengo becomes a lot more interesting here, I think, because you have a bunch of different cards you can work with it, including the new Laventia Stadium. I don't even think I've seen anyone play Laventia with the Gholdengo, but I think it's interesting. I have not played with it either, to be honest, but you could do that so you can get energy back easier, because you cannot play 4 superior energy retrievals and 4 Arvins. It's 2 and 2, and you cannot play Energy Search Pro. Those are all big losses. But then I'd replace it with like regular energy retrieval. You could even play Lana's Aid. I wouldn't hate that in the deck. Again, probably play Research. You just want to draw lots of cards. You'll lose any Buddy Poffin, so you could play Brock Scouting or Great Ball or something like that. And Artisan, you probably play 2 of that. I feel like 2 Artisan in most decks seems good, though it does help out your opponent. And the energy, again, is not affected, but you obviously don't want all this energy. The only reason you play all these energy types is for Energy Search Pro. I mean, yes, it gives you some versatility with Crispin. To be honest, I have not played this deck, I don't think. Not much at the very least. I might have played it a few times, like a little while ago. But, yeah, you probably want to cut down the energies to Metal, Psychic, Fire. You could play Darkness if you're playing Monkey Dory, but that's a thing that make sure you do that, right? If you're playing Gholdengo, you're probably used to this energy count. You might not even think about it and just say like, oh, this is fine, but it's still better to play those 3 energy types, the ones you're actually using. But I think Gholdengo helps round out the deck. It gives you some more draw power. It's not a ton more, but it's a little bit more, which is nice because you're losing some Dracos. Then the last deck is Regenerable Ogerpon. Honestly, this deck's pretty similar to Tera Box, but it's still very good. You are losing Sada's Vitality, so probably you're losing some of your Sada's Vitalities. Play 2 Pal Pads, definitely, and 2 Crispins. From there, I don't know, you could play 2 Glass Trumpets if you want. That might be a good idea, and then you're losing some Ogerpons as well. I don't think losing 2 Ogerpons is that big of a deal. You don't really want... You want like 2 in play anyways. It's a little annoying. If you only have 1, that's kind of bad, but it's not like you automatically lose. Reducing your knockdown counts is fine. Playing extra Fezandipiti EX and Squawkabilly EX is fine, and Latias EX is fine. You could play some tech Pokemon like Slitherwing or Koraidon. I like Koraidon a lot more than Slitherwing personally, but Slitherwing has some use cases. But you could play 2 of those, or you could play none of those. That's fine. Pokemon Search, you probably play Buddy Poffin and probably Great Ball as well. I think that's fine. Overall, I think the deck is okay. You play 2 boss. You could play Counter Catcher. Counter Catcher is pretty bad in the deck, to be honest, because you're trying to push your advantage, go fast. and take prizes before your opponent. So then Counter Catcher doesn't do anything, but you're not playing Prime Catcher, and Boss's Orders isn't always great in the deck because you can't always play it because you're relying on supporters to get your energies on the board. But I think this deck's okay. Overall, though, the deck I definitely recommend the most is the Archaludon Poison deck. This is, in my opinion, again, the best deck in Standard regularly, and it's probably I think it translates the best out of all these decks, but tell me down below in the comments if you think there's a deck that translates better. Also consider subscribing. That really helps out the channel, and liking the video as well. That also helps out the video and the channel. But I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.